The blowback from the Iran war is still currently most visible in the Gulf. In the early hours of Monday morning, Dubai airport was hit by a drone strike that's reported to have set a jet fuel storage site ablaze, causing all flights in and out of the airport to be cancelled as the site continued to blaze after the sun rose, as you can see there. Mid-air flights were turned around or rerouted. There are also people on social media tweeting about their experiences. So a lawyer travelling to Dubai tweeted this: "I am on Emirates EK010 from London Gatwick to Dubai. We were just about a couple of hours from landing in Dubai when the flight had to turn back to Gatwick due to the airport closure. We are now on our way back to London after getting so close to Dubai." Obviously not a good advert for Emirates Airlines. Do you really want to book a ticket if you might have to get, there's a considerable chance you're going to have to turn around? Do you want to get on a flight to a place where missiles are landing, I suppose is the bigger question. So far, the UAE says it's had 1,800 missiles and drones fired into its territory in a fortnight. The country's Minister for International Cooperation, though, has given an interview to Australia's ABC where she blamed just one actor in the conflict.
It's been pretty unprecedented what's happened, and almost unhinged, I would say, to have Iran lash out at the very people who've been calling for de-escalation, who've been calling for this war to never actually even start, which has really taken us by surprise. We've borne the brunt of most of the missiles and drone attacks, and it's really quite surprising for us that Iran has taken such an irrational path to fight the Gulf states and act in this quite unlawful, quite unacceptable manner.
What does the war mean for agreements reached between the UAE, the United States and even Israel? Things like the Board of Peace, the Pledge of Investment in the United States, the Abraham Accords. How does it change the dynamics?
It doesn't. It doesn't. If anything, we are doubling down on our friends. We are further cementing the strong ties that bind us. Moments of crisis won't falter the trajectory that we are in, which is built on partnership and mutual respect.
That was a minister from the UAE saying they're basically doubling down on the relationship with the United States and Israel, saying this is all Iran's fault. They're pissed off that they're getting hit. British Airways has cancelled flights to the Gulf until at least May, which seems quite significant. I mean, I suppose most flights going in and out are the Emirates, because it is a big hub airport, which their sort of signature carrier will use. Some influencers in the UAE are pushing back, though, against the narrative that, Dubai is a dangerous place, that it's over, that it's a war zone. One of them is Ian Miles Chong. You might have seen him on Twitter before. He's got 1.2 million followers. He's a right-wing Trump supporter, a bit like Isabel Oakeshott, actually, who tweets about how immigrants are taking over America. Obviously, she talks about it with the UK, whilst living in Dubai.
Hey, guys. Does it look like this is a war zone? I'm told this is a war zone. According to social media, this is a war zone. I'm just having some nice food here, okay? In the Mall of the Emirates. Reporting live from a quote-unquote war zone because some idiot decided that, that this whole place is a war zone to get some clicks. So don't believe everything you read on social media. It's just complete nonsense. Dubai's fine. Everything's fine. Abu Dhabi's fine. This was just there like a couple of days ago. Nothing's changed. Guys, it's fine. What the hell?
Now, obviously, that's the kind of video that you are allowed to upload from the UAE at the moment. There are people who've been arrested for sort of filming where rockets have landed, where drones have landed. So, it's, we're not necessarily getting the full picture from there. But I mean, is Dubai over? It had an image of being a safe place you could go as an influencer or a tech worker or a lawyer, make lots of money, have a nice quality of life. Now, your plane might get turned back because the drone has struck the fuel depot at the airport.
I mean, just look at the Dubai real estate market. So
I always do. I check most mornings.
I always do because all of my investments. So on Friday, when I was writing the Cortado, about 20% of the value had sort of been wiped off. And now it's looking like it might even be as high as a third. And lots of people are hoping it's going to be a temporary blip. I wonder if that's going to be the case because it took decades and decades to cultivate this image of Dubai in particular as a safe haven for Westerners. It was a really interesting thing that happened in the 1960s, which is when oil is discovered in the United Arab Emirates. And quite early on, the sheikh class are worried. They're worried about, well, what happens to us when the oil runs out? And you can see why, right? There's the period of decolonization. You can really see the limitations of the sort of promise of sovereignty and independence. And if all you are is a natural resource to the West, you're going to get fucked over at some point. So the sheikh class make a decision, which is we have to be known for and have value in some other way. And that's to do with diversifying the economy, and it's also to do with soft power. So it starts with transit, and it starts with the Emirates airline and the Etihad airline, turning Dubai and Abu Dhabi into these international transport hubs and a sort of gateway to Southeast Asia and to South Asia, and also to Australia and New Zealand as well. And then in the late 90s, early 2000s, we're going to be a tourist destination in our own right. So the Palm Islands, the Palm Jumeirah, all this, mega tasteful sort of building projects of high-rise hotels.
That's why I'm always considering investing.
That's why I'm always considering investing. That starts to be part of the strategy. And then afterwards, 2016 is a hugely impactful year for Dubai in particular, because they go, right, you've got all these Brits who can no longer, work and travel visa-free in 28 EU countries. Why don't we open our doors to them? And they made a concerted effort to attract influencers, people with, big social media followings, because they go, well, this is a way in which we can project soft power, literally, onto the phone screens of people all around the world. The flip side of that, it turns out, is that if you've got loads of influencers in Dubai or Abu Dhabi or wherever it is, and then they start filming oh no, the hotel's on fire, or oh shit, the, airport ceiling has just caved in, is that really undermines your work. So you're not necessarily going to die sitting in the Mall of the Emirates, but your chances of that happening now are significantly higher than they were 4 weeks ago. And the sort of central delusion of Dubai, which is we're in the Middle East, but we're not really. Right? We're more liberal in a sort of contained way. If you're not Muslim and you're from the West and you've got money, we're more liberal for you guys. And don't worry about what's across the Gulf, right? We can see Iran from our house. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. That is an illusion which took decades to construct. And how many bombs do you need before you stop feeling entirely safe, especially when most of the people living in Dubai and Abu Dhabi have passports of other countries? They could just go home. And, I know that London is supposed to be a crime-ridden hellhole, but
maybe they'll come back
safer
now and realise it's not actually that crime-ridden. It's crime is historically low. They're like, oh, God, I was in Dubai looking at all these horror videos about how everyone's getting stabbed in London all the time. And then I went back and actually it's fine. Maybe that's what Isabel Oakeshott will start.
Not that I would ever advocate people committing crime, but I'm going to be camped outside of Heathrow arrivals with an e-bike and a balaclava.
I was listening to it. I was trying to think what it was, because I don't like to say I heard on a podcast without saying what the podcast was, but I just cannot remember what it was. But they were talking about, so if it was your podcast and you're watching, put it in the comments. I don't want to steal your ideas without credit. But they were having a conversation about whether this will destroy Dubai because influencers won't want to go there anymore. And the argument that was put forward is to say, there's always going to be more influencers, especially if you subsidize them to go there. And if no drones have hit a building in 6 months, not many people in these countries are going to die. So you're being there at the moment, you're not risking your life, really. It's more you're risking inconvenience. But they were saying the real barrier is going to be to long-term investments because, they're trying to attract billions to build data centers. And imagine just you've got a big box, very easily targeted by a drone with millions and millions of pounds worth of chips inside, very easy to damage, very sensitive. So if they're trying to build this sort of diversified economy based on long-term investment, then that's why this is a disaster. Because, if this war ends at some point, probably you are going to be able to say, okay, well, probably the next 2 months do look safe. I can go out there and make some videos. I can go and live in a hotel for a year and, live tax-free, yada, yada, yada.
Bit cheaper, those hotels as well.
Yeah. But if you're saying, I want to make a 20-year investment in a place where a bunch of really expensive infrastructure has just been blown up, you're not going to want to do that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair point. And so data centers have been a big part of this, like, let's diversify our economies for the Gulf states. And that's something which is going to be, potentially critically endangered. I mean, there is a sort of interesting thing of how short memories are. So I can't remember if this was 2021 or 2022, but it was around then. As you know, Michael, I watch Formula One, especially when the football is bad. I then switch over so that I can feel some joy. And it was the Saudi Arabia Grand Prix, I think it was in Jeddah, and all the Formula One drivers got stuck because the Houthis had successfully targeted a rocket at some Aramco facilities in Saudi Arabia. And as these, incredible feats of engineering were zooming around the track, you could see the plumes of smoke billowing from behind. And at that point, I sort of wondered, like, is this going to be a crisis for Saudi Arabia in particular in its program of sports washing? The great thing about the Formula One calendar is that you can really see which governments are like, come to us, come to us. Had Sochi for a while, not anymore. Baku, Jeddah, Bahrain, Abu Dhabi as well. But actually, it was sort of not a problem, right? So next year, Saudi Arabia Grand Prix comes back. It's not really an issue. But now, the next two, Bahrain and Saudi Arabia, have been cancelled from the calendar. Abu Dhabi is still on the calendar for the end of the year, but it means that the race season has been significantly shortened. And you just sort of go, like, how viable is that strategy going to be going forward for the Gulf states, right? Like, at the moment, they've just been sort of chucking money at sporting institutions, whether it's Formula One or whether it's WWE or whether it's comedians, being like, come make jokes, but just not our government, in Riyadh. It's a sort of thing of you go, all right, but when it's going to be increasingly uncertain whether or not these events can go ahead, like, it's not just the sort of like influencers aren't going to want to go there, but is that element of projecting power into the West, how viable is that going to be?
So you're having a terrible year because Tottenham might get relegated and all your favourite golf car races are going to be cancelled at the same time.
I actually think that the cancellation of these races could be to the benefit of the teams that I'm supporting. So the team I support is Mercedes. The driver that I like is Lewis Hamilton.
Oh, sorry, I got confused because I was like, how is Tottenham going to be connected to this?
No.
This makes sense.
So with a shorter race season, I think it could benefit them.
Okay.
Keep going is what I'm saying to the warmongers around the world.
Why would that... Do car racers get tired?
Well, yes. Fewer races means fewer opportunities to crash out. And so if you're in the lead with the points already, that's good. And then the second thing is that in between, I don't know why I'm talking about this. In between Grand Prix, there are significant improvements that can be made to a car. And they can make your car better or worse. Right? It's a gamble each time. So if you've got a good car at the start, you're kind of flying, you're having a great time. And Mercedes and Ferrari do this year.
Fabulous. Buy Mercedes and Ferraris. You heard it here. Well, you don't buy it. That's not how it works. But anyway, great cars. Great cars.